And hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, live show number 134. I am one of your hosts, hopefully not the only one today, Lauren Gray. I come to you from Washington, D.C., which is exceptionally breezy, windy for the Two Roads Hospitality Conference. So hence my dark background and purple shirt and cute little name tag. Anyways, I'm hoping that I'll be joined briefly with my co-host, who I hope to turn over the show to since I've had the privilege of speaking with Two Roads Hospitality today. You might hear some background noise because they are breaking for lunch, and I am boguing on their meeting Wi-Fi. So I might as well go over and join them for lunch while I'm at it, right? Actually, I had the privilege of being with them for a little over a day and a half, so it's been good. Hey, Holly. Hey, how are you? Thank you so much. I appreciate you making it. I'm sitting here going, well, now I get to go and show off. I'm at Two Roads. I got my little nifty name badge. And,
look at you.
Oh, yeah. I just got.
What are you talking about at Two Roads today?
Actually, it's hey, Mr. Robert Cole.
Hey.
It's the convergence of revenue management and digital marketing. And I had two sessions with them. They gave me over an hour each. So I had time to talk, but I still ran out of time. I still didn't finish my deck. Go figure. But it was I was talking to all the revenue managers and analysts and some GMs and some of the corps as to the migration together. So I kind of blended some of the stuff that we did off the presentation at HSMS Digital, some of the stuff off of Rocket, and some extra just, scare the crap out of them kind of videos on what technology is doing, kind of stuff.
Wait, it took you that long to just go, this isn't going to happen? It's nothing to worry about. Stick to the old way of doing things. You're fine.
Run in fear. Yeah. I thought I'd stretch it out to a good couple of hours, but
yeah, okay.
Yeah, but no, thank you very much. And Robert, did you send topics? I didn't get a chance to look at my emails. Did you get a chance to send out topics?
Yes.
I sent lots of topics.
Oh my God.
I didn't use all the ones that you recommended. I cut out a couple that were a little fluffy.
Oh no, that's why I put them in there, because the first one I put in was purposely a piss me off one. It was like, what to do to improve your hotel's. It's
I did not include
Stuart.
that one because it was just the kind of a clickbaity type.
That's what I put it in there for. It's like, man, this is just are we still having articles like this come out where it's like, do PPC, It's
I
like,
threw in one too.
Yeah, there it is. Look, I have a little marker over Two Roads Hospitality.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hi,
We're sponsored. That's excellent.
Stuart, just for the record, Holly loves you.
I have that effect on women.
She sends me notes of how awesome you are.
I love him. I love him.
Everybody loves
You know
Stuart.
why she's so positive about me, right? It's because I'm actually nice to her, and you guys are all assholes to her. So.
Yes.
Okay.
It's so weird like that.
Who is?
No, actually not true.
Lauren is the only person who says horrible things about Holly. I never say anything bad about her.
But at least I do it in front of her and beside her. I always say the same.
Lauren is my new boss, so of course I love Lauren.
Of course. Hey, and Lauren, it is Employee Appreciation Day today, just so you know.
It is Employee Appreciation Day.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you really liked Holly, you would get her that Tesla. I think is a nice.
Well, she didn't tell me if she wanted red or powder blue yet. So until she tells me, it's really
Red,
hard.
of course.
You know why I'm really so nice to Holly? I'm living vicariously through her, because in a former life, I'm a recovering coder, and I really miss development a lot, but I don't have time to do it anymore. And seeing her go through that journey now is so exciting and fun, and I wish I was in her shoes.
Hey, I'm not going to be her employer for long. They're lining up to pick up Holly. I tell you right now, they're already picking her. Lining up.
No, I have so much to learn. I have a project due tomorrow, and when I get off of this show, I will be beginning to code, and I'm guessing I will not be going to bed tonight because we are so far from finished, and I hate it right now.
Hey,
I will love it tomorrow.
Have you learned how to scrape yet?
No, yes and no. I'm doing legit API stuff right now.
Oh, okay. Because I have a scraping project if you want to jump in on it. I just got a contract signed off on doing some scrapes.
I do, actually. I want to talk to you about it because we're going into that next.
Perfect.
Lauren, if you want scraping, I can do scraping.
Really?
I got tools for scraping.
Okay.
Well,
I got a tool, but that's it.
Huh?
Oh, I have to tell you, it's actually a signed contract. Somebody's going to pay me to do some, and a reputable organization is going to pay me to do scraping for them.
So like a true consultant, you've taken their money before figuring out how to actually deliver the product.
I got 20% down. The 80% I'll figure out. It's okay. It's all right.
Lauren's approach is we will drive off that bridge when we come to it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Exactly right. If there's no bridge, we'll go to it before we get to the end of it. It's all good. Okay. Anyway, so Mr. Robert, you didn't like my clickbait topic.
Which article are you talking about?
No, it was like how to get your how do you get to your hotel?
Stupid from Hotel Now, I think it was. It was the Hotel News Now one, I think. But it was just clickbait. It was just garbage of like, oh, do PPC. And remember, social is really important. And remember LinkedIn. It's like, really? We're having articles that throw you back 5 years?
People click on that stuff, though, you know?
That's what I was saying. It works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's
Because
pure clickbait.
not everybody lives in this world. And so, we live in a different world. Like, you are aware of that, Lauren. Not many people rotate in your orbit.
I'm somewhere past Saturn. It's a planet beginning with a U.
That's funny.
Anyway, so what topic do you want to hit? I'm sorry. I got 100 people in front of me staring at me. Why is he talking so loud to his computer?
The first one is actually I pulled it from a Morgan Stanley research note, so it's not exactly out there published with a link, but I thought it was.
There's Neil. Say hi to Neil.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Neil.
They're speaking at the conference as well. They're saying hi, Neil. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
What I can try to do is post it in the maybe in the Facebook comments section or something like that. I'll do that. But it's basically their review of Booking.com's earnings conference call, and now it's actually Booking Holdings, I should say, formerly known as Priceline, and they basically said it was the trifecta that Booking delivered faster than expected top line growth, better than expected profitability, and it was their highest fourth quarter incremental margins in 6 years. So I mean, that's when you're operating at that scale, that's something to say. And they're increasing shareholder returns. So it's not just that the top line's going up and they're getting this and all of a sudden it's draining out somewhere else. They're doing this. So their comment was online travel remains healthy and Booking is driving the industry. It's also interesting to note that Expedia missed on their earnings. So Expedia's growth is around, this isn't in the little write-up, but Expedia's growth was about 11% year over year. Bookings was 23, sort of thing. So really, really remarkable growth. So, they're saying basically faster growth plus better profitability plus capital returns means overweight this thing in your portfolio, which is kind of what they talk about. But really, they basically came out with three major points. Booking continues to deliver best-in-class execution. They are doing an absolutely great, a great job. It's a 21-year-old company. They're generating a ton of cash flow, and they're doing it better than anybody else, and they don't really see anybody threatening them. They're driving shareholder value. They had a very interesting comment on what's going on with the tax, with the tax benefits, right? Because Booking.com or Booking Holdings has $18 billion of cash, 90% of it which is held offshore. So what are they doing with that? They aren't hiring more employees or more U.S. employees or anything like that.
You mean that didn't work?
Well, $8 billion of it is going toward a share repurchase program. In addition to $2 billion remaining as part of an existing authorization. So they're going to spend $10 billion buying back their own shares. They're going to retire $700 million of convertible debt. And they're doing this quick. They've already bought back $380 million of stock in this quarter. And they're basically going to shrink their float to drive earnings per share growth. So,
if you want any swag, I'm actually sitting at the Expedia booth. So if you want any swag, let me know. I can.
Oh, they.
Can they
they
hear
aren't
us? Because
gonna-
I was about to
they
talk smack
probably-
about Expedia.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, the reason why I
Yeah,
broke your table is they're not here. They just left their swag on the table. So
Oh, you just got someone in trouble, Lauren. They're meant to be manning their booth for the whole
yeah, well,
conference.
I'm going to cover for them saying, yes, I'm sitting at your booth, and anybody that asks me Expedia, I will tell them what Robert said.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, and then the only other thing they kind of tossed in that they thought basically profitability could have been $65 million higher, but there was a change in accounting rules. There were some new accounting standards. So, if you're looking at it over kind of the old way they did the accounting, you could have gotten another $65 million on it. So,
Petty
they
cash.
are absolutely rocking it. So. Yeah, I think the hoteliers who are out there saying, "Hey, book direct and kill the OTA," that's a pretty daunting force.
Yeah, but if you look at the landscape, Booking.com is always the lesser of all the evils, right? They
Right.
tend to get along better with the hotel industry. All of my clients, without exception, majority of third-party bookings are coming through Booking.com, and there's a number of reasons. One, I'm a UI nerd, as you know, and their user interface is phenomenal. It's by far the best. It's the one I always talk about in presentations about how well they figured out psychology and the frictionless path to booking. But they're also one of the lower commissions of the OTAs as well. So I think that's part of why hotels favor them over Expedia. So if you can get the volume from Booking.com and you make more of a margin as a hotelier, that's obviously where you're going to put your inventory first. And Expedia, they do a good job in certain ways, but I hate what they've done when they acquired Orbitz or Travelocity, and they just created this one. Like if you go to those three sites, Expedia, Travelocity, and Orbitz, they're the exact same user interface. There's no differentiation for them. So as a consumer, you're doing a search, the three may come up, and you click on two of them, and you realize they're the same. You're just going to dismiss one. Whereas when Priceline and Booking.com they've always kept their own identity, and everything they've acquired, they've kept their own identity, and I think that's a much smarter way to go forward.
Well, and I think Expedia did that because kind of the same thing that Booking.com does. I mean, these guys test everything.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big reasons they bought Travelocity and Orbitz was that, yes, they had lots of traffic. They were doing all sorts of air bookings, which, are very, very low margin, for the OTAs, but they weren't converting the hotel stuff. So basically they introduced their hotel platform. They said, hey, we've got this Expedia platform that's tested out. Instead of doing something new, because we know the old one doesn't work as well, instead of going out and doing all the development resources and things like that to make it look good, so let's use what we know, right?
Yeah,
And
it's such a short-sighted thought process, though. Like optimizing to conversion rate on three different sites and creating the same exact experience, just it loses their reach, right? Because if you do a search for any destination, and it's hotels right now, it used to be where you'd search for it in Orbitz, Travelocity, and Expedia would show up along with Booking.com and TripAdvisor and whoever else is there.
Yeah.
Now you don't see Travelocity and Orbitz because Google's figured out it's the same experience as Expedia. So now Expedia only has one swipe at the guest, whereas they used to have three swipes. And because they homogenized, they don't get that anymore.
Yeah. No, and they aren't doing the ad spend.
Is it okay? I was going to ask that. And by the way, I'm acting like everybody knows me and I'm smiling. Nobody's smiling at me, okay? They're ignoring me, but I'm acting in front of you like, oh, hey. Just
Do
so
they
you know,
know
right?
that you're live right now on this show?
Some do, because and just so you guys know, I met people that watch the show. They're like,
oh, wow.
I watch the show. And
There are people who watch this show.
Well, they're actually really smart people in the organization. I'm like, you're kidding me. You're in charge of all that and you still watch our show. Really? That's awesome. So,
well,
all right.
And what you do is you quiz them also. I mean, someone will come in unsolicited and say, hey, I watched the show, which is like, that's great. But a lot of them will come and say, yeah, last week when you were talking about such and such, for example, Lauren getting hit by lightning. I think a lot of people would be talking about
Oh,
lightning.
my gosh, that was incredible.
Thank you so much for bringing that back in. Yes.
Best story I've ever heard.
Can
That
I-
was the
say
one news
something?
topic covered last week.
It
Yeah.
was.
Can I say something though, Robert? The collection of articles that you send out, I really kind of feel like we should figure out a way to monetize that because people love that. Like many people at the digital marketing group talked about how valuable, and the articles that you sent today were amazing.
Well, and Ed isn't here to go basically, say, oh, don't follow Rock Cheetah on Twitter because it's all. I mean, a lot of the stuff comes out as RSS feeds, and the way I find a lot of it, I go right through that Rock Cheetah and go pow, 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 because I got links on them, right? You can see what the articles are, goes right to the page, and it works. It works great. And then I pick out a couple of other little, like the Morgan Stanley thing, right? That's just something I happen to get that thought might be of interest, sort of thing. But yeah, there's possibilities.
They're always good. I mean, they're just always insightful, good articles.
They're curated.
They are well curated.
Yeah, they are. Very much so.
Unlike Lawrence, who sends out clickbait, right?
Thought-provoking topics.
Shiny object.
Shiny object. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Lauren, how did you make it quiet there?
I hit a mute. I'm just putting on mute, right, so you don't have to worry about the background noise. Yeah, because you're right. I'm probably bleeding over and I didn't realize it, so I'm just putting it on mute unless I have to.
Yeah, because it was dramatically different. Can we talk about the Expedia deal with Brand USA with the sound website? Did you look at that?
Oh,
I did. I have strong opinions about it. I'd like to hear everyone else's first, though.
Oh,
okay.
Man. I loved it.
Well,
I'm on the
we
opposite end of the spectrum. Complete end, opposite end.
Oh, okay.
So,
well,
are you playing the role of Ed today?
I'm going to play the role of Ed. Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, we should tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, go ahead. If you're passionate about it, because I would give a cynical overview.
Yes,
so go ahead and tell them what it is.
Yeah, go, Holly. Why don't you do that? I will post the link in the comments. So.
Okay, so Brand USA seems like partnered with Expedia to develop this sounds of, I forget what it's called, Sounds of Travel or something like that. And so there's this, you go to this website and there's just this cool bar across it and you click on it and you put on headphones. It encourages you to use headphones, though I didn't. And they play these sounds and they have these visuals that aren't cool. I mean, they're not clear visuals, but they're from, you are there in the moment listening and watching to what's going on. And I just think from a experience standpoint, I just thought it was fabulous. Like, what a fantastic approach to what is possible on websites.
Anyone else have
That's
opinion?
the point. And now Stuart
Here's
for
the
the
thing.
counterpoint.
Here's my Edism. Here's the thing. So I think the concept is great. I thought the novelty of the 3D sound was pretty cool. It was pretty neat with headphones. But if their objective at the end of the day is to drive people, foreigners, to the U.S. to travel, I think it failed miserably. And for a couple of reasons. One, I thought it was kind of gimmicky. The visuals, while they try to immerse you in an experience, it was stylized nonsense. Like, it didn't really, there was no emotion attached to it. There was no heart to it. There's no authenticity to it. It was generic nonsense. And the payoff at the end wasn't really there because I clicked these random, which would you prefer to hear things, and it gave me like 10 seconds of stylized visuals that didn't really, to me, immerse me in the experience. The sound was neat, but it didn't really immerse me. And then it took me to a generic landing page that really didn't do anything other than Expedia does anyway. So I felt like the concept was great. I just...
The execution maybe wasn't.
Was lackluster. I just don't think it was effective as it could have been and the potential that it had.
I'll sort of agree with that. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah. No, I thought it was interesting that they tried it and they did it, and it was a little bit with the sound. I mean, it was produced well and things like that. But I agree, it wasn't really like an authentic experience where you go, wow, that's really cool. I want to go to Memphis or New Orleans or San Francisco or Chicago, and that could just be a blues type thing, whatever that might be. But actually, I just went in just now. They've even modified that page a little bit because now they have record using 3D audio, and I'm noticing sneaking up at the bottom, at least of my screen, is now search flights and hotels on Expedia. So they're getting the booking widget into that, where when I checked it before, it was just this, kind of soundscape screen. So now they're starting to lead that in. And I thought the part below it, though, was actually the better part, where they had all of these different experiences, right? And you could go down to, craft beer trail and click on that, and whoops, I got a page not working. Look at that. Oh, Expedia. Oh, they had a broken link there. What do you know?
Oh no.
Shame on them. But those are really
Lauren's
good.
at the Expedia.
Not necessarily
Can
because
you let them
of
know
sound.
they've got a broken link?
Yeah,
Can't
exactly.
tell 'em. Oh, there's
I'll take care of
And
it.
all of this is actually soundtravels.expedia.co.uk. Also,
Yeah.
so right, they're doing this. This is
It's a neat
I
concept.
agree.
It really is,
Better.
but
It is a neat concept because it is new in the world of experiences that you can have on the web. I think they're pushing the envelope.
Right.
I think there's some room for them to prove, oh, hey, hi.
hello.
Hi, Agnella. How are you?
Robert and
Hi.
I don't even
How are you doing?
Agnella's from paradise,
Yeah.
I would never leave my property if I was him.
I know, right?
Spectacular.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's more to be done, but I think it's pretty cool.
It was
Well,
weird to
really-
me that they chose to go stylized with the visuals, right? With this pixelated kind of thing versus, and then at the end show a still photo versus.
They don't have to pay.
But if that was video,
For the-
right? If they had actually put
Right.
me in, even VR would have been great for this, right? Because if they could have put me in it fully immersively and experience it versus a bunch of dots on my screen, I felt like it would have been more effective. It didn't move me emotionally. It didn't compel me to want to go to Chicago or Memphis or Miami or wherever it was,
But the stuff, if you make it down, and I think it may be, the people just go for the gimmick and the sound at the top and don't explore, which was not be good. But if you check on, like, they have a little box and they've got lots of experiences down there, which that's the part I really liked. So they go top 10 Austin music experiences. And I thought, there's going to be sound. Well, they didn't do sound. It's like, well, that would be a good spot for sound.
Right.
So all they had was a page, but they said, see one at, iconic venues, stroll the Red River Cultural District, catch a busker on 5th Street, fill up at Stubbs Barbecue. Now, not all of them had images. And it's like, you need a photo of Stubbs Barbecue.
Right. In an immersive site.
So I like the concept.
No video.
Yeah, I like the concept, but boy, this could have been great. So again, it's Expedia boiling the ocean with all of the U.S. with Brand USA. So they're trying this really big thing. But boy, you look at a destination like Austin, having a little vertical on, hey, here's something for music, here's something for food, here's something for whatever hiking, whatever the case may be. You can do some really nice stuff, and I think a lot of hotels could also do very similar, interesting things with the experiences you can have when you travel these places.
I agree 100%. That I think this is a typical DMO campaign, right? It came from Brand USA, and DMOs tend to have so much money they don't know what to do with it, and they end up spending it on these bright and shiny things that look cool and make their constituents happy because it's cool. But I doubt many of the board members and certainly many of the people that are contributing funds to it, in lower trickling down to the individual DMOs, none of them spent time really going through this with a consumer's hat on. And I doubt that they're measuring success of this in the way they should. They probably measure how many views it gets, which a view doesn't help anything, right? How many people are going to watch this in a foreign land and say, I'm inspired to travel to the U.S. now and I was not before? That number is going to be very small. And so
how would you measure it, though? How would you measure it?
I'm going to turn my camera off for a minute.
Tangible revenue, right?
We're back.
How would you measure it?
I would measure it in terms of how many people end up booking a trip. Look at this, and then at some point in the future, go and book a trip to the U.S. within the next 12, 24 months.
And
I
Expedia,
think they will.
Expedia is certainly looking at that because they've got a booking widget at the bottom of every one of these pages now.
Sure.
And I'm willing to bet that booking widget, which is currently at the bottom, the way these pages are designed, I bet this is going to, right after the little whatchamacallit, breadcrumb, right, that says back or whatever, right below that's going to be the booking widget, I bet. Because they're going to wind up testing that and go, hey, you know what, we get more bookings when we put this up, up here.
I'd like to see the data. I doubt they'll ever release it, but I would love to see the data. Yeah. And especially of people that have not been to the U.S. before, or at least haven't been in the last 2 or 3 years, that they want to book a trip.
Yeah.
I think if it spurs action, and I bet they do release the data. I think Brand USA is pretty smart. Not perfect, but pretty smart.
Yeah.
We have to get Amir Alon on this program. Do you know him? Do you guys know him?
Mm-mm.
He was at one point with Brand USA when it first started, and now he's the president of Longwood Research.
Okay.
And so they have some really interesting data. I've been trying to get him on the show, but we never made the schedule work, but we will. Hi, Darlene.
Hey, Holly. Hey, everybody. How are you?
Welcome.
Stuart, you did a good ed job, but you weren't nearly as mean. So
I know, I can't be quite that mean. I'm not quite as opinionated, which is weird. Everyone I know says I'm very opinionated, but then I'm an ed. And
well, yeah, it's all the benchmark here. Yeah.
So, Darlene, we've been banging on Expedia for the first 20 minutes or so, just hating on Expedia. So
I was listening. I was a fly on the wall.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good for Expedia, though. I mean, they've got Brand USA, who obviously gave them a sackload of cash to go develop all of this.
It's on the Expedia domain.
It's on the Expedia domain.
They get all the links.
They are the call to action. They've got everything on this. So, a smart move by Expedia.
Yep.
I just think it's smart of both of them, as Holly said, to try something new that hadn't been done before. So, you know what? Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right?
Exactly.
And Robert, I agree. When I went on yesterday, I didn't see the booking widget integrated, and today it is. So maybe what they're doing is just, taking baby steps toward trying this new thing and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. Yep.
Or maybe someone saw the data yesterday after it was launched and said, wow, there's a ton of people coming, but no one's booking. And then someone pointed out, oh, wait, we don't have a booking widget on this page.
Right.
Duh.
Yeah.
I think, Stuart, you should do your presentation on this show that you did at the conference. Not today.
Wow, on the spot. Yeah, I can't for sure, not today, but
I think it was so valuable that people would love it who weren't able to make it to the digital marketing conference. It was just smart.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, mobile was so important right now, and people are oblivious to how important it is. I just don't think we realize in the U.S. and when you look to Asia and you look to Europe at how further ahead mobile is, especially China. China's going bananas in terms of mobile transactions online and in retail. That U.S. is going to get there very quickly, and unless the hotels wake up, we're just going to erode our direct bookings even more, because OTAs have figured this out a long time ago, and there's a reason that OTAs are booking 50, 60, 70, 80% on mobile, and hotels are only booking 16 to 20% on mobile. We're behind, way behind.
Well, and actually on that topic, there is a news item on Google releasing this mobile scorecard, which is also I think is going to be very interesting, especially if this gets into the hands of, say, owners or brand managers or CEOs who just decide to sit at home and go, hey, how's our site performing compared to, oh no. So you can type in Marriott and Hilton and Hyatt and whatever you want and suddenly see, oh boy, Hilton is responding a second faster than 1 second faster than Marriott, which is which is going to catch the attention of some people.
And when you do generic searches in destinations, Hilton typically shows up above Marriott, right? There's a correlation between fast sites and ranking. There's a correlation between fast sites in conversion rate. And both of those mean there's a correlation between fast sites and revenue.
Right.
Have you looked at the Google tool that you posted the other article about, Robert? I didn't look at it. I just read the article.
Which is it?
The calculator.
The scorecard and impact calculator. The impact calculator. Whoops, I'm pulling it up right now so I can look at it. So basically, the other one is basically how the impact of that speed on the bottom line. So it breaks it down into financial terms. I'm looking to see if there's an actual link to it. They have another one for publishers for DoubleClick. I'd seen that before. Oh, here it is. Okay, it was off of a blog post. So so it's nice. You can say, hey, you improve the speed, you do this, and here's the kind of money you wind up getting from it, which is great. So you basically put in your
business terms.
Basically what you do to calculate the revenue impact is you put in your domain, you put the current speed, average monthly visitors, average order value, and your conversion rate. And then you can basically say, here's your speed from 0.6 of a second to whatever, and you can go play around with, if I slide this down, I can make this much. Hey, maybe we should start doing this, which
right. And is smart. There's a word of caution with that data, right? It's not precise in the fact that they're making assumptions, right? They're basing some of the calculations on studies that were done on e-commerce sites last year. One, the market's changed, but two, it was not just hotel sites, right? So there's a difference. They make the assumption that for every second slower your site is, it's a 20% drop in conversion rate. Right. I have not seen that kind of direct correlation. I mean, there's a correlation, but it's not that extensive on 1 second equals 20%. So, you got to take the revenue numbers for what they are, not exactly precise. But I like the fact that this calculator puts it in business terms, because that's going to get the attention of decision makers who control the purse strings when they see. Because if a tech guy comes to the CEO and says, we need to spend $10,000 to speed up the site by 1 second, the CEO 9 out of 10 is going to say, that is a waste of money. I don't want to do that. But when you can show a business impact, that's a lot more compelling. So I think there's so many tools out there now, and Google especially are pushing so many out that are just screaming from the rooftops, you have to speed up your site. You have to speed up your site. It's a better user experience. It makes the web better. You will make more money. And yet we as hoteliers en masse are not listening to Google, and it's going to bite us in the ass because, again, OTAs are listening very carefully. Airbnb is listening very carefully, and they're reacting to it. So we as hotels have to do that as well.
Yeah. Actually, I was just going to put through a few numbers here on, let's see, total visits for the month of January at SimilarWeb. Okay, Marriott had 31.2 million. So let's see what we can do here with 31,200.
January.
What's an average order value you think at Marriott? Let's say it's probably 2.5 days, 3 days. I don't know. What do you think? At
150. So, no, it's usually actually it's gone up to 160. 160 at 2.5 days.
$160 at 2.5 days.
Yep.
Where did you get that number?
So about $400.
The Marriott.
$400 on the nose. Okay, that's great. And what do we think Marriott's conversion rate is?
That's a tough question. I bet that's public somewhere.
Yeah, hang on. Let's see if we can find that.
Robert
is talking about it yourself.
Robert is a good scraper, manual scraper.
Oh, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of research online for what I do. So
one may even say Robert's a good tool. He is a tool.
Hey, I am a tool. A total actually, Stuart, a total tool. They go, Robert, he's a total tool, which I always thought was a compliment, right?
That's exactly right. That's how it was meant.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't see a direct thing. Let's just guess at what? 3%, 2%, 5. Anybody want to be?
Three.
Yeah, 3 sounds good.
Okay. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so right now they're at a 5% rate. If they can get that to, let's just say 4 seconds, that is $99 million.
In what time increment?
Well, that was based on their monthly unique visitors of
Is that
31 million.
99 million a month additional they
That's-
could make?
Yeah,
by
that's a month.
saving
That's a
second?
month.
That
Yeah.
that
And
might
again,
give
that's
people-
revenue. That is
people take
revenue
notice.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, that is revenue to the hotels. So again, Marriott's only getting X percent in terms of fees, so they're pulling at 12% of that or something like that. So
Sure.
that would then kind of justify their ROI based on their development expenses for what. they
It's
need
still
to do.
millions and millions of dollars a year.
It's a lot of. It's a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Right.
And-
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's potential annual revenue impact for
Okay.
improving.
Oh.
That's annual. Yeah, I thought that was a
Okay.
lot, but still $100 million. Nah, maybe. I guess that's kind of interesting.
It'd be worth investing in, right?
Yeah, maybe worth looking further into.
Yeah, for sure.
See something with that many zeros, you might want to pay attention to it. So,
Um,
and that's
One
one. That's 1 second though. If you go even further, it gets even. Yeah, if they can take
1
it down
second.
that's to go match Hilton. If they can get it down, to 3 seconds, $240 million. So it's interesting. So, which I think 3% was, I can't, or 3 seconds. I can't remember what Airbnb was. It was pretty quick though, I believe. So anyway.
So we've learned something today, children, right? Faster sites equals more money.
Yes.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen.
breaking news here. You heard it here first.
Never
Yeah.
heard of
Um,
it first. Yep.
So, are any of you Snapchat users?
Yeah.
I was sort of surprised that wasn't on your topic list. Did you hear yesterday how much money Snapchat lost because of their redesign and because one of the Kardashians doesn't like it?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yes.
it's interesting. I mean, there's another one coming out, which is, what is it? Begins with a V. I downloaded it, which is kind of the Facebook, Snapchat killer called, what is it? Versa? Something like that. Where is it? I did download it. Haven't really used it because nobody else is on it. Vero, Vero.
Is it the self-proclaimed Facebook and Snapchat killer?
Well, no, I mean they pulled in like 500,000 users like in a day or two or something like that. I mean it's pretty interesting, but
It's good timing for sure. People are leaving Snapchat in droves, but
yeah.
it's a temporary.
So only a couple painfully early adopters are on the platform. But again, when you see one of these, if you want, for example, I have Robert K. Cole on all of my social media things, so I don't, poor Tim Peter, who's TC Peter on others, or some of these guys who have to change things. If you grab these things early, you can
Get your name,
which
brand.
is
if
great.
you don't, you end up as a teenage girl with millions
Lauren
of subscribers on YouTube, and yet you can't get Lauren Gray on Twitter because some middle-aged
Middle-aged
guy who's been hit by
It's being
lightning
selfish.
six times. Yeah.
I
Being
think
selfish
deserves
with
getting
that
the
name.
name. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Show me the money. Show
Lauren
me
needs
the
a.
money.
You need a check. Lauren needs a blue check by his name, a Wikipedia page, and a
That's right.
variety of things for your personal branding, Lauren. I think
I can
you're
safely
right.
say, Lauren, hand on heart, you've contributed more positive things to society than she has. So,
Thank you very much. Although she has a pretty cool little musicality thing, so I
yeah.
can't take anything that way from you on that.
But you haven't tried that, so maybe
Yet.
yet.
Yeah.
Testing, very important. We've talked about Brand USA and Expedia trying new things, testing it. Lauren, there you go. So.
We should do a musical episode of this show.
Like the senators did about a bill.
Yeah.
You saw that?
We need. Oh, that was rough sledding.
I didn't. What was it?
So it was in
I'll
Illinois.
find the link.
Or,
Again, talk amongst yourselves. I will find the link.
Which I forget which state it was, but some senators took it upon themselves to do a New Prince of Bel-Air version of how a bill goes through their Congress. And hey, A for effort, but no.
P for pain. Yeah.
P for bring back Schoolhouse Rock. Just bring back Schoolhouse Rock.
It was really. It was Utah. It was Utah, and I will do the link. It's a YouTube link, which it is really folks.
I did have a link that I wasn't in your list of, but I didn't get a chance to even throw it in my list about the how Google adds new features and improves navigation for mobile hotel and flight searches. The extra tabs now that are showing up on your hotel choices. And I know, Stuart, you had already talked about this on the podcast from before. So I wanted to kind of throw it back in again because it's actually getting better, smoother, faster, nicer, slicker, and better, all that kind of cool stuff. Even since you last talked about it.
It is. If you are not participating in Google Hotel Ads as a hotelier right now, you need to get on it because it's really, really strong ROI. But the OTAs are there if you're not, right? So you're losing money if you don't. But it's a good ROI. The only hesitation I've really had to telling all my clients jump on it right now is just being the volume has not been there. I'd say, for clients of ours that are on Trip Connect and Google Hotel Ads, Trip Connect is probably 10 times the volume of Google Hotel Ads, so it's been very anemic at best. But now that they're really pushing it, they've figured out how to streamline the interface. They're getting ready to overhaul the back end of GHA and make it more like AdWords. And they're just making this huge consumer push towards it by putting it in the main navigation on mobile, right under the local pack. We're beginning to see it accelerate, and that's going to only increase in 12 months from now. Google Hotel Ads is going to be as popular as Google Flights, in my opinion, and that's when the volume is going to be serious. And it could be a big OTA killer. It really could.
I actually think it's going to blend at their timing when they added it to their AdWords campaign. I really think they're going to do that. I think they're going to put it into that.
They are.
We've heard conflicting things. At Google Hotel Ads, rep says they are not doing that, but I've heard conflicting. So
Oliver Heckman said they are. I believe Oliver.
That was the first that came out. Right? At a conference, but. Our rep has assured us that it's not actually going into the AdWords interface. They're taking technology that's in AdWords and putting it in the Google Hotel interface.
Right. It's going to be. I think it's going to be replatformed onto AdWords. The user interface may not be just the straight AdWords sort of thing. It'll be for purpose built for hotels.
But what we don't know yet is it going to include keywords, right? That's the unknown. Right. Because if it goes into AdWords, then you can bid on keywords, which you cannot do right now on hotel ads. So you can bid on types of placements. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Fly to Jordan and kidnap Rob Torres, who's having probably way too much fun over there. And just corner him and ask him. I mean, would be in Jordan, so we'd probably get away with a lot more hardline questions. Throw some sand at him or something.
I think you ask Oliver because Oliver's going to build it and then give it to Rob.
Give it to Rob after. There you go.
Rob may or may not know.
They said early 2018 is when the change makes. So we should know here within the next couple of months for sure.
Yeah, my understanding was second quarter. So. Oh, Tim Peter has joined. Look at that.
Is it Tim or is it Darlene?
Oh, Darlene might be using Tim's.
I normally don't confuse them that much. So.
He's left the room anyways.
Yeah, I've known both for a number of years. So.
She signed on with his credentials a couple minutes ago.
Oh, yeah. I see. I had missed that. So I posted the link to the Utah House of Representatives RAP, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So please do not click on it. You will
what's interesting, right? So I'm going to kind of contradict what I said earlier about Expedia, because in the case of the Utah guys talking about how a bill passes or whatever it is, what's their objective? Right? Their objective, one, is to get exposure for them and their platform, but two, to educate people on a subject that's pretty complicated, the kind of Schoolhouse Rock styles, right? So even though it kind of blew up for different reasons, it blew up because it's ridiculous. Did they not accomplish their objectives? You know, so is it not a success, even though they look ridiculous?
I don't think anybody paid attention to what the content of what they were saying was. I think they're just like, these guys are ridiculous, and they could have just been saying, meaningless words tied together about anything. They could have been talking about any sort of topic and had the same impact.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the same. It's probably the same rationale you'd have to have is if you run a live show and have people view it, but you don't get the chance to talk to them much. But when you show up at a conference and people walk up to you and say they watch your show, is it productive?
Now, I would say if they were singing about the origins of the Great Salt Lake, skiing up in the Wasatch Mountains, or the results of the Winter Olympic Games that they held relative to it doesn't matter. It was just awful.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for all the wrong reasons.
You have it on a loop. So,
Stuart, I can't wait for all the remixes.
It's just a train wreck. It's a train wreck ready to happen. It'll turn into Sharknado. It'll be a Sharknado.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, so
a lot of exposure.
So maybe another news sort of thing. Maybe I should start with I'll post a link to the FocusWire interview with Brian Chesky of Airbnb. But Airbnb is 10 years old. They aren't even a precocious teenager yet. So.
Oh no, I've got an almost 10-year-old. He's pretty much a precocious teenager already.
Yeah, that's true. These kids grow up so fast.
They grow up fast. Yeah.
So the nice little headline: Airbnb targets 1 billion guests per year by 2028. Hello, hotel industry. Are you paying attention?
They are paying attention. I don't know.
They're starting.
They just don't know what to do, right? They kind of scratching their heads.
Yeah. So
you had that article, and then you had the other article about hotel brands.
Well, this is, I think, all the different things that they are doing. So maybe we should, what are they going to do? So you can make that statement that you're going to get that up. But what are they doing? They're opening the platform to hotel distribution, right? They're offering all sorts of. They're building their own inventory. They're building these basic collections of different types. I think they have 7 categories now of properties. So you can, not just have kind of the shared space private room, but really types of places. So I think they're going to go big into B&Bs, stuff like that.
They're also doing the premium hosts, right? You can some kind of certification to stand out somehow.
I also threw that article in about how they're focusing on corporate travel now too with the reward programs.
Superhost, Airbnb Plus, which are personally verified. So Airbnb's coming in and saying, "Yep, we got quality, we got comfort." And they're starting with 2,000 homes in 13 cities, which isn't real big, but they're now doing beyond Airbnb for luxury selection, they're doing custom designed trips of a lifetime, lots of very, very interesting stuff.
And if this was any other company, I'd be saying I was concerned for them. Like, are they losing?
I want to know if you guys are having fun. You could Holly saying hi, Robert saying hi, Stuart saying hi. Yes, we're having fun. Yeah.
Hi.
We're talking about Airbnb right now. Just having fun.
Are you having fun?
It's a new membership program. They want to know if you're having fun.
Sessions?
Yeah, and they want to know how you're putting up with me.
Well, we just poked fun at Lauren's expense without him in the room.
Oh, see? So I'm not even in the room, so it's all good.
That's what we do it into his face. Yeah,
they do it to my face. That's all good.
Hey, wait, Kathleen.
Oh, he wants to ask a question.
Wait, hang on. Interesting fact. Did you know that Lauren has been hit by lightning?
Oh, they want to make sure you know that.
3 to 6 times.
No, 6. It is 6.
6.
It depends on what actual strike.
Any other human being that's in a car that is struck by lightning would say, "I was struck by lightning today."
3 times directly.
6 times.
Well, that explains it.
Did they say that's
so much, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I didn't add that to my presentation program here. Thank you. That's
You're
great.
welcome. You're welcome.
The electric. No, for your public speaking now. Hey, Lauren, you need to imagine the electric Lauren Gray.
I need to get a Tesla. Now I need a Tesla orb. So when I walk up on stage, the whole lightning thing.
That's
I think
right.
I'm going to have to
This
my
presentation
whole,
might shock you.
Yeah. This.
You
Lauren,
that?
Lauren may be able to recharge a Tesla on his own. We need to test that.
This is
How much of a charge?
as good as the food was at dinner, I'm regretting maybe the conversation topic in New York.
That was one of the greatest nights of my entire life. Best stories I've ever heard.
You did have a great look on your
I
face
missed
when I
it.
said that. You're kind of looking like, oh, what?
I was concerned for my safety. It was raining outside.
Which
I
is what brought
would
up the
be too.
conversation. It
Yeah.
brought up the conversation. So yeah.
I'm kind of sad I missed it, but I did go, I think, see Trevor Noah at the Daily Show live and have a great Thai dinner with my wife. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think you did pretty good.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
You did
So-
visit Stuart,
Robert,
though.
Weren't you at the dinner that I was at?
Yeah, that was a different night, Robert. You
That
did-
was on the Wednesday dinner.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was the.
Still, I mean, it was a
Yeah,
nice
okay,
dinner,
maybe.
but
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, we weren't at the same table.
No. But yeah, on the Wednesday night, yeah, maybe.
Careful.
Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, Airbnb,
so,
right?
Airbnb, there's a great interview. I highly, highly recommend you read the interview with Brian Chesky. Just so many different, takeaway points of, them not doing. Why aren't they doing an IPO? Like, what different things do they really need to?
Yeah, that was an eye-opener to me. I was thinking they weren't doing the IPO because there was some risk floating around right now, and timing couldn't have been off. But he made a very valid point about why you would do an IPO and why it doesn't make sense for them right now.
Yeah.
But you've got to admire him, right? Because he was very humble in the interview. He was talking about how their initial goal was not where they are, but he's learned so much and he's thinking so long term, which is the opposite to the rest of the industry. And that's why, even though they're diversifying at such a tremendous rate, and normally you would be concerned that's going to cripple a company because they're trying to be too many things to too many people. I think because they have such a good long-term, like decade-long vision, I think it makes sense for them to do it. And they've proven again and again that they can execute better than almost any company.
Right.
So
and just the way he's approaching it, and Jill did a great job with the with the questions, but she goes, a recent Wall Street Journal article said Experiences hasn't been profitable, but the company says it plans to be profitable. He goes, yeah, we'll be profitable. You go, can you elaborate on that? Well, we're approaching 1 million booking run rate for Experiences, and that's growing by orders of magnitude. So they've got 5,000 experiences, and right, they aren't profitable right now, but they're building the base of it, and I mean, and they have 55,000 experiences on the wait list because they're vetting these things, right? So it's not
they're
just
doing it the right
some
way.
scammer going, I'm an expert in whatever, and they just find out it's just some guy.
How
Yeah,
many
I'm an
wait
expert
lists?
in creeping out women. Yeah.
5,500. And they have 5,000. Or no, I'm sorry, 55,000.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah, which is a lot because they only have 5,000. That's a 11x wait list sort of thing. So, yeah.
He also came out and said they are 100% aiming to compete with OTAs, which
absolutely
makes perfect sense. And that came right from the CEO's mouth. So the OTAs better pay attention, especially Expedia. Booking.com has their shit together, but Expedia needs to watch out. No, they do. And so, name somebody you admire. Chip Conley, and Chip Conley is hugely responsible for what these guys have done because he taught them hospitality basically, and what needs to be done to provide these great experiences with things that you normally wouldn't think would provide a great experience. You just staying in somebody's house, really? I don't think that doesn't sound so great. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, if they do it like this. And actually, I got off a call earlier this morning which is Drew Patterson's new venture called Properly,
And what they are doing is providing a network. It's a service platform for people to go in and clean all of these places, be it, VRBOs or Airbnbs. And some very, very innovative approaches, because it's certainly they have all the things of ratings and how people are doing things in analytics to see how many cancellations you have and things like that, which are very, very helpful. But in terms of, one of the big challenges in that is you're hiring somebody to clean the place, but you aren't checking them. In a hotel, you've got a supervisor who kind of comes through and goes, right, yep, good job, you did everything well. Well, instead, for what the place is supposed to be looking like, they're taking all these pictures from the property owner going, here's a picture of the bath, here's how it's supposed to be set, here's how the stuff is supposed to be set at the sink. And then when they go through and clean it, they take pictures to show, yep, that's clean, there's the tub, there's the whatever, whatever the key things that the owner wants to done. That is kind of their validation, which is a really, really good idea. And they have thousands of people, and again, they're trying to build a little network. But the more these little support networks start coming in, it'll be interesting. I don't know if Drew's plan is, the exit winds up getting acquired by Airbnb or by somebody else. But that's but again, who's going to buy you? Expedia for HomeAway and VRBO, or for Airbnb? I mean, who cares, right? Because again, whoever buys them is going to have all this data of who's being used and the turnover and the utilization, and all of a sudden you're going to get this little expert cadre of expert house cleaners, right? Who are cleaning for commercial purposes, not just for residential purposes, which are two kind of different things.
Does anybody know if there's a platform of what you just talked about, Robert, for commercial hotels where, I mean, home inspection, room cleanings and room inspections are such a large part of the supervisor's role, and it's always been a torn time element for them. And I just wonder if there's an app or a platform that says, hey,
there's the hotel workers union. So that's the traditional one, but yeah.
Pictures, comparing the pictures.
Putting the pictures through where, okay, that's part of the sequence of them. There's certain angles for each of the rooms. They're designated, and the housekeepers.
I'm wondering if any of the asset management tools out there do that, like a Hot Source or a Track and Care or something.
Because that's a pretty freaking brilliant idea to incorporate. Not to say they still don't do spot inspections and everything else.
Oh no, and it's a checklist. Their whole premise is basically a checklist, right? You go into this, you set up, here are the things you got to do, and it's not just make the bed, right? It's make the bed and have it turned down this particular way, because that's also the picture. And in many cases, they're starting with the pictures that are being presented to the guests. So they're like, this is what I expect. That's all I've seen. Right. So when I get there, hey, it looks exactly the same. That's a good thing.
I'm going to the hot sauce thing. Yeah. It's like, well, wait a minute. Now hot sauce is like, okay, because then if there's any engineering elements like, the toilet roll holder has the screw pulling out, or the shower, and then you can throw that into the profile of the room, and it's cumed into a room type. And now you not only have work log history, but you have housekeeping validation. And man, that could speed some stuff up. And I'm thinking,
well, if they run in, and if the cleaner's in there, because the owner's not always there, right? Sort of thing. So it's delegated to someone. And it's certainly better than having a friend is going to take care of it, or whatever kind of
Robert, you're still on the whole. You're on the whole still Airbnb thing. Holly and Stuart and I, we're already splitting up stock shares.
Oh yeah.
Okay?
Well, no, but traditional housekeeping training goes through all of that. Of here's how you're
talking about training. We're talking about inspections.
We're talking about inspections. We're talking about day in, day out room inspections. And doing the same mentality as also engineering picks, and having an actual room record. And it shows, and then you could also have housekeeping comparisons between housekeeper A versus housekeeper B based on their bed profile or the amenities set up in the restrooms. I mean, you do this whole quality.
Holly, you just got your next project.
I know. Can we get Drew on the show?
Probably. Yeah.
To talk about this, because we could give him some helpful advice, I think.
Yeah.
Well, think about Alice. Even think about Alice. Alice could incorporate this into their platform.
Exactly.
Holly.
I'm kidding.
You don't know Drew, do you?
I do not.
Okay. Yeah. You can give Drew advice if you want. No, but Drew started up, Checkmate and that sort of thing. Before that, his first original claim to fame was he at about 24 years old was the main deal guy. Not really the main deal guy, but there's a guy, Steve Hankin, who was a former McKinsey guy at Starwood, who was there. But then Drew became his main deal guy when he was really young. I mean, like fresh out of Harvard Business School sort of thing. So he elevated pretty quickly, and then was instrumental behind some things with going with basically the group of hoteliers who decided to have Pegasus kind of be Travel Web, the Travel Web version 2.0. He was at Jet Setter, Kayak. He was actually the head of marketing for Kayak, where Hankin had wind up starting that stuff off. And
So Stuart, I'm thinking from an operations perspective, if we're going to have the housekeepers use their phone, that we bypass the local storage of the image. It goes from an app, and the image gets pushed up. So there's no local storage requirement.
Cloud-based, no question.
It gets pushed up as soon as it goes through. You connect out to the local Wi-Fi and encrypt it out. So you Mac key out the app, so only the housekeepers could be connecting to the software. I think there's some legs to this. I think there's some legs to the idea.
Let's take the conversation offline.
I'm thinking we got some business to discuss. Thank you, Robert. I know you're talking about it from that side, but I'm like,
no. Yeah.
So back to the interview, though. There was one thing he said.
You can certainly streamline the inspection. I just wanted to add one more thing before we go back to Airbnb. When I worked for a couple of years for this economy lodging chain, that was one of their keys to success, was basically the regional directors, the regional operations folks came in and had to check on stuff. And they've had, I can't remember how many tags, but all the crap in back of house that you had to check the oil level of this, because it was a little limited service, 80 room property, and they put tags on it, and you had to go initial it, with a date, and sign it when you check that. And let me tell you, every general manager of every one of those properties, when that person was coming in on a Thursday, they were scrambling on Wednesday to get all those tags signed. So since they had to be there to check it, yes, they might as well see if it's right or the filter's clean or whatever. I mean, dramatically reduced all of the stuff that was breaking and all their maintenance. I mean, just zeroed out.
It's one of the best investments a hotel can make. We've seen
that's what they did.
Gone from not really doing the preventive maintenance to having a system like a Track and Care or Hot Sauce, and their reviews tremendously different, right? They eliminate a lot of the nagging stuff that creates the negative online reputation. So it's such a good investment. But people
I
don't
walked in,
look
it
at
was
it
kind of musty smelling, or this happened, or such and such, or absolutely incredible for doing it. So anything you can do with that and facilitate how you can reduce labor, make it more efficient, avoid
improve the guest experience, which is what it's
improve the guest experience. Yep.
So going back to the interview, though,
back to Airbnb. Yeah.
So the one thing I thought that was really neat, they were talking about advice at the bottom that he'd gotten, and he said something that it's something we live by here, and I think more businesses should, which is it's when you start out to create a company, he didn't start out to create a billion room nights a year, right? He started out to create 1,000 users. Right. So what he said is it's much better to create a business or a product that 100 people love than a product that 1 million people kind of like. And he's exactly right. If 100 people love it, it's gonna just spread and spread and spread.
And that was advice when he was in Y Combinator, right? I mean, that was kind of what they kind of push those guys on is, you're trying to kill the world and just be do something that this small. If this small group of 100 people love it, there may be other people like them. Right. Sort of thing.
Exactly. And don't be all things to all people. And that's what Tim talks about that a lot on his podcast. Tim Peter, he talks about, you've either got to be a monster brand now or you've got to be super niche. And that's what he means. You've got to target an audience and create a product just for them, because that's how you're going to be successful.
And let me tell you, it's hard to be a monster brand. And if you're going out to design it and trying to get funding to go be a monster brand, you better have some.
Yeah.
You better have something really spectacularly different. And if it's spectacularly different, there are going to be a bunch of people who go, nah, "That's really different. I don't know."
But it's interesting. Airbnb started out being the niche, right? And now they're becoming a monster brand because they did the niche so well. So you have to start there always.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, there's always room for the next startup. There's room for a couple people in an apartment to create a travel company that could be the biggest in the world, but they're not going to do it by copying us or Expedia or anybody else. And that is just such outrageously valuable advice.
What's the statement? If you're copying somebody, you can never be better than what you copy.
Yeah. Well, you can do some incremental improvements on it and that sort of thing, but then, I mean, I've seen that over and over in the hotel industry. And again, you look at all these hotel groups out creating more brands to go, oh, we need our equivalent in whatever portfolio to be the W equivalent or the Aloft equivalent or the, whatever.
Aren't they kind of doing that though, to niche, so they can take these big brands but find their niche audience? I mean, they have to. What other choice do they have?
Yeah, but the problem is they're derivative brands, because I mean even W is derivative of Schrager and Morgan's Hotel Group sort of thing to start off with, right? I mean that's what they tried to do. How do you do kind of this larger, not a true like boutique hotel, but how do you make more of what became kind of these lifestyle type brands, right? And they've all kind of been derivative off of those. So, actually there was an interview. Oh, actually, there was one other little third act from Airbnb. So with all of that amazing stuff going on at Airbnb, one of their execs just left for Booking.com. So which I thought was very interesting. Where you go, gee, I don't know, whatever's for each person. But you think with an IPO coming up and being kind of a pretty big juggernaut, but
had to be a good package, right? It was probably a good offer that they received. But if you can't beat them, poach them. Yes,
Yep, that's right. And so I say kudos to Booking.com to be able to pull somebody like that out, because again, what was his exact position? I mean, he was the main guy.
Head of France, and then head of Europe, and then
country manager.
Yeah,
director of global strategy for Airbnb.
Right.
And he was only in that role for 2 months. So they said, that's the main Airbnb strategy guy. Let's go grab him. So ad for us, negative for them.
And what was the title? Remind me, have you got the article pulled up? What was the title at Booking.com? It was interesting. It was like the home division or something. Almost like a direct competitor to Airbnb, it sounded like.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Vice president of its home division. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's the main guy. And he's working for a company with a $90 billion market cap.
Right. And a lot of cash to spend. A lot of cash to spend.
With $18 billion, buying back their shares and returning for their investors with happy investors. Right. Yeah. So that's, versus the whole go through the IPO and all that stuff, which, but of course, could have some pretty, some pretty big rewards with that as well. But
I'm going to actually go over and I'm going to keep the computer on for the next 15 minutes just while I sit here while I have to go back to the room. I got to actually take my stuff out of my room and also I'm going to chime out and then I'm going to probably shut off my access to this in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, which should not end the show. Technically, the show should continue on.
It's always a crap shoot.
It is, right?
Don't hit the red phone button.
Not hitting the red phone
button. Sign up and just unplug.
I'm just going to take these two things off, leave the computer on for now, and then in 20 minutes when I have to actually close the computer, I'll just turn off without turning the show off. I'm just going to take my browser off. That should
Lauren, where can they find you if they want to learn more about you?
Washington, D.C. at the Two Roads Hospitality. No, at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com or at Lauren Gray on Twitter, or Hospitality Tweet. That's another one we have. And then Facebook at facebook.com, Hospitality Digital Marketing. And you'll get the copy of the show as well there. So, guys, I'll talk to you all next week. Thank you so much for being here for the show this week so I don't have to worry about doing hand puppets. And thank you for the topics, Robert. I sincerely appreciate it.
And Lauren, thank you for not liking the topics so they don't disappear into the spam filter for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, they go to spam, right? Yeah. So, but thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys over the next couple of days.
Stay away
Have
from
fun.
lightning.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
We can't even say stay indoors because that doesn't work.
It didn't work. He got struck in the shower.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
See ya.
It doesn't matter. In cars, in showers. Yep. That's amazing.
If anyone listening didn't listen to last week's show, go back and listen to it because it's the craziest story ever.
It is
Blew my mind. Blew his mind as well.
Yeah.
6 times. But
incredible.
Yep.
But also incredible that we've all known him for this long,
yeah,
and it's never come up.
it was almost like a story of shame. You know how you've got those stories that kind of embarrassing that you don't really share until the right moment in a friendship. He looked very coy as he began to tell the story, but then as we just grabbed more and more out of him, he got more into it. But he was
started out by
cautious.
saying, "I hope you don't think less of me."
He did. That's literally what he
Right.
said. Yeah. But you could also tell it came from a spot of fear. He started by looking out of the window because it started to rain, and so
Wow.
it was.
He was thinking of your well-being. You might not be able to.
I'm about to act like a crazy person, and I just want you to understand why I'm about to act like.
And
a
let
crazy
me tell you
person.
why.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I posted another link of a news stuff which I thought segued nicely, which is the traditional hotel chain dead? And the Rob Report, who does a lot of kind of high-end luxury stuff, decided to talk to some people like Ian Schrager, who basically kind of started. I mean, there's a debate whether it was Bill Kimpton or Ian Schrager who really started boutique hotels or lifestyle hotels.
Sure.
It was Bill Kimpton, beat him by a few months, I think.
Yeah.
But,
Longer than that, and also more infrastructure. But anyways,
yeah. But Ian did it in a very splashy, with the same way he did Studio 54 for nightclubs, right? I mean, his thing was,
his PR was
hotel lobbies. Yeah, hotel lobbies of the 90s or whatever, of the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, were going to be what the clubs were of the of the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, he has maybe a better story to tell, but I think you got to give kudos to Kimpton. It was the
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuart,
But anyway,
why
let's
are
look
you
at them Relais Chateau. Go ahead.
Why are you making? You really are channeling Ed today.
I know. Any subject line or topic of an article that has "something is dead" just drives me bananas. I get it. I understand it. We do it on our podcast all the time because it gets clicks, but it's never true, right? It's just clickbaity nonsense. So
yeah. But it worked. It got my attention. No.
Yeah, it did.
But actually, I thought Ian had some very good advice. Everything changes. Cars change, fashion change, kitchen appliances change, and hotels have to change and keep up the pace, which is that would make a lot of sense.
Right.
But I also thought he was smart about, so take a look at what Airbnb can't do and what hotels can, and put some focus there, which I do kind of feel like some of these new brands that are coming out are really doing a good job of it. Have you stayed at a Moxie?
Mm-hmm.
I have not. No, Moxie I think is a very good brand, and I think Moxie. You start looking at ones like Citizen M. That I did stay out, which was great. Yeah.
Ed's pretty good friends, I think, with the Citizen M guys. He stayed at a Citizen M in New York for HSMAI.
I want to talk to the guy about it.
You that stayed there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, those. Yeah. I mean, they do a great job. Yotel. Things like a lot of these are really, they're doing new, modern, fresh sort of approaches, which are
communal spaces and
Core is doing some stuff that's pretty cool in their market research in their lab that they're cooking up and trying. So I do kind of feel like hotels are trying to address this as best they can.
But Airbnb are reacting, right? Because they don't have communal spaces. They don't have things like gyms.
Right.
This is, to me, this
But
is why they're getting
doing-
in the hotel business now. This is why they're partnering with these select boutiques. And if you
Right.
look at the criteria, the boutiques that can publish on Airbnb have to have gym facilities. They have to have communal space. They have to have these things.
Yep.
Airbnb is going to come around and say, if you want to be on our platform, you have to give your space up to all Airbnb customers, not just your customers.
Right.
That's how Airbnb is going to combat this.
Yep. And Airbnb tried it with coffee shops and things like that and little neighbor, and it kind of worked, but it just wasn't enough, right? It was like, it was a place to pick up the key, which was kind of the first, real problem that how do you get the key? Does the owner always have to be there? That's really inconvenient for the host, all that sort of thing. So yeah, they keep learning, right? And keep morphing. And again, because they don't own any properties, they are just the platform. They can do all this stuff and be very, very nimble. Well, I don't know. I don't think they'll ever own those things. I think they'll have developers build them, and it'll be the same thing. They'll do in licensing deals or whatever, or somehow, help them with the design, but not necessarily have the liability for, running the place and do all that. Which
and then it'll be up to hotels to steal the Airbnb customers.
Mm-hmm.
If
you've got the Airbnb customers coming to your property, you definitely have an opportunity, right?
Right.
Sure.
Well, and you look at what particularly these three groups with what Schrager's doing with public, and I haven't stayed in a public. I've walked through one, but it's pretty interesting because he's not going super high end, but it's it's cool. It's kind of like Citizen M. It's not super luxurious. It just is. It's stylish and it works, and the service is really nice and good and things like that. And that's great. And for a similar cost, you kind of go, hey, that's a good thing. And his point is, for the same price, you can roll the dice and stay at somebody's house, but this is a great experience. Why don't you do this? And let me tell you, if I'm staying in New York, I'd stay at Citizen M over somebody's house if it's the same. If I'm spending, and the price wasn't that bad. It was $150 a night or something like that. You go, this is great.
Or in New York, those hotel rates this February were miserable. I mean, they were so cheap.
Yeah, that was great for us, right?
Thank you, Highgate Hotels and the Row, which I believe sets the rates for most of Midtown, Times Square, Manhattan, because they do. They just all follow them around. They go, they went to 78. Are you crazy? Why are they doing it? Because they run the thing like a cruise ship or an all-inclusive resort. They design it to run full, right? And they've got the staff, and that's good, and it's consistent, and they know how to do it, and it's set up to do that, and it feeds their food court, and everything's great if they run full and they make money. And they just go, hey, if it's jamming and it's fashion week, they will crank it up to 250, 270, 300 if they can, but they just sit there and go, what's the right rate to run this thing full? And that's an effective strategy if you can do it. Yep. I mean, that's how Ryu does it in the all-inclusive resort business. You can go through a variety of groups that do that. But anyway, it was interesting. I think the three that they picked in the Rob report. So you had Ian, kind of at the boutique hotels above. They had Relais Chateau, which are really, really cool place. Again, highly curated, great places to stay. Normally with outstanding food and beverage associated with it, which has always been kind of Relais's key differentiator. Really, really cool place. Sense of history, sense of place with great F&B. I can't beat that. And then Amman Resorts, which really does, again, amazingly cool places. And what do? They're really small, intimate places, but they're in really unique settings. They're UNESCO, World Heritage sites, and just, spectacular spots. That's great. But those are, some very specific niches where you go, right, you can compete against Airbnb and HomeAway and VRBO very effectively with that. But what about everybody else? What happens when you have your 500-room, Renaissance or Garden Variety Sheraton or something like that?
That then goes into the other article that you posted.
Oh, Well done with the segue.
Segue.
Thank you.
Except I can't
professional.
remember the name of the app. I'm talking about the one that the
Oh, properly?
yeah, no.
Oh, maybe it's not as good a smooth a segue as I thought.
Yeah, I can't remember it's the article about the booking bid direct booking.
Oh, private deal?
Private deal. That's it. Jeez.
I'm negative on private deal. That's
Me
why
too.
I put that in the list.
But
Okay, the
that's
segue
pitch for
the segue I was going to do.
hotels.
Yeah, the segue I was going to do was to the round table, which really seemed to be a little bit more of a plug for the new IHG, new IHG brand for Avid hotels. But the mid-scale hotels in focus, and kind of the opportunity for them to really be like, focused on and redevelop and provide a good service. But that is going to be a challenging space for these mid-scale guys are going to start getting squeezed by the upper tier guys coming down, the lower tier guys coming up, and all these people doing really kind of unique, cool accommodation at affordable prices. That's going to be an interesting sort of thing for how these guys compete. And again, they're saying with Avid, IHG is doing this, and this is very cool, and that's great. And you go, that's great. But what the person who's in charge of Avid is also in charge of Holiday Inn Express, which I thought was kind of an interesting juxtaposition. So it's like, yeah, but what about all those Holiday Inn Express guys? How do they compete against Avid and all these other guys coming into the sector? And that's going to be the tough part for these owners.
So why are you negative on private?
Private deal?
Private deal.
Let me put it. I can tell you a true life adventure with this sort of stuff from the car rental industry. So,
go ahead.
So, okay. Way back when, I rarely talk about my year with Budget Rent-A-Car.
It's sort of like the lightning strike. I've never heard that.
Never have. Yeah, no, it's there in my CV and that sort of thing. But I spent a year with Budget Rent-A-Car running distribution for them, and we freaking knocked it out of the park when we did that. We really redid a lot of how we were working with the GDSs and in the corporate space, and had huge growth. I mean, our growth was triple the competing car company, and Budget was not the largest, group. They were not part of Avis at that point, and there was Hertz and Enterprise and Alamo National. Everybody was separate and all fighting out. So we had 15% growth, where the other guys were getting 5 or something like that. That was pretty good. We totally redid. We built an application server to redo our website. So wow, you could see not only all of the different car types that were available with like pictures of the example car, but you could see the total all-inclusive price for that rental and go, hey, that's what I got. I think I'm going to go with the full-size car because it's only whatever, $20 more for the week or something like that. That's great. So, which really helped, upselling, dramatic. We knocked it out of the park with that. Unfortunately, the CEO, who was at the point, very, very rarely when a franchisee acquires the brand and kind of does that kind of takeover, but Budget wound up doing that. He loved Priceline. He drank the Jay Walker moonshine and just thought, great, we're going to do a deal with Priceline. And actually, even before that, I think even before that, he looked at Priceline and said, hey, we're going to do a Priceline thing just for us called Bid Budget. And it was the worst, most unprofitable, dilutive thing that company could have possibly done. Priceline was also a horribly bad decision for Budget to go through, because it's a generic commodity. I want a full-size car at LAX at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, dropping off on 4 p.m. at Thursday. Do I really care if it's a Hertz or Avis or Budget or whatever? No, I'm going to just buy on price, and there you go, race to the bottom, right? So the Priceline deal, what we wound up to salvage that, because he signed the deal. I was like, oh crap, that's awful. But we wound up doing a deal to cross-sell cars to all of their air traffic, because they had a nice, high probability need of a car, which was at least 40% of the people who were flying by air needed a car rental generally, based on the stats that we'd had. So we go, or I think it was 60% actually. No, I'm sorry, 40% overall rented cars. We had 40% conversion because we tied them into our little application server. They had the arrival, the pickup time, because they had all the flight, arrival, departure stuff. We went through and basically said, hey, we'll give you the same rate that we will for the Priceline car rental, because we wanted to raise our price on the Priceline car rental and not really get sold in that. But if we knew those travelers were coming, on those dates, and they needed a car, it was, do you want fries with that? And that was actually our code name was fries for the project. and we had 40% conversion off of that. It was unbelievable. And the way we had the app server laid out, we could have, but we didn't. We decided with Priceline at that time not to do it because it would freak people out. Was, do you want to use the same credit card? Would have been a really simple question, and it should have been sure. And then we could have done it, but we thought that would, because we were the merchant of record, we wound up, not doing it that way. But it could have literally just been one-click booking. We had a window. We experimented with the time frame. Is this expire in whatever 3 days, 1 day, 10 minutes, and we wound up with like 30 hours was the perfect optimized time to maximize the conversion. And those deals went away. You could not get those deals anywhere else except if you bid on Priceline. Right?
So why are you against private?
Oh, because they had the bid budget product they had, which was people naming their own price for budget rent-a-car, was like, why? Here's our price, and you had to give them a deal. It structurally wound up just unnecessarily discounting the product by 10%.
I get that. But what I think is appealing, and this is the tie-in that I had to the 500-room, no personality hotel.
Yeah.
If they can, and I think this is different in the budget in the rental car, because the total cost per day for a rental car is maybe $30, $35, right? I mean, it's not ever.
Well, what do you mean for a cost? Wait, for the cost to the car rental company, or the cost to who?
To the consumer. It's a purchase decision that's $30.
It's lower than the hotel.
Yeah. So if you're only going to need that car for 2 hours versus 8 hours versus the 24 hours, you don't really care. You're spending $35 on a hotel. Well, if the rate's $200 and you're only going to spend 2 hours there, it's going to drive you crazy. That's the appealing part that I saw to the drive.
But a typical car rental. Typical car rental matches up, and again, leisure's longer than corporate, but you wind up with a 2 or 3 day, 2.5 day, average rental. So it is 35. It's $35 base rate.
Yeah,
plus,
I get that.
Plus all the taxes.
It's still less.
It winds up being
So I'm kind of in between you two, because I see what you're saying, Holly. I think for me, if you're a lazy, bad revenue manager, this would probably be a product you would love, because it makes you even lazier and don't have to think about yielding rates, right? But folks that are yielding rates appropriately now have got it down to a science, so they know what the price point is that people are going to want to buy to get their room as full as they need it to be at an optimum profitability, right? So I think if you're doing a good job rate managing now, this would be the worst thing you could do, because it's just going to erode your rate. And like you said, Robert, it's going to just be a battle to the bottom, because if you're yielding down and then your competitors start doing it, and the only thing you're competing on at that point is price, that never works. It never works. It's a race to the bottom. But
and you aren't competing. I mean, the thing with whatever, if it's Priceline, if you're dumping distressed inventory through Priceline or Hotwire, they don't necessarily know the brand. They don't know these things. And I use that stuff all the time, but I am not a big
not on your own website. No way.
Yeah, it's certainly not on your own website. You can do it strategically, okay, for hotels. I think it's in many cases certainly misused and overused. But again, they see here's what your rate. That is your new value proposition for those guys is you're a $70 a night hotel instead of $120 a night hotel.
Yeah, because you're selling it twice. Is my point. You get to sell the room twice in a day. That's the upside to the bid that I found.
What do you?
No, that's not. This isn't a partial.
That's the segment that I'm talking about. No, that's an element of it.
That's the short term. That's the partial stay or the hourly. That's the dayuse.com model. This private deal isn't that. This is just you bid on the.
Well,
you can use for a night use stay or day use stay. It doesn't really matter.
But that's the upside that I saw for
that I think is an opportunity, right?
Oh yeah, then you
perishable inventory that you can sell.
You can use dayuse.com. There are a bunch of folks in that space. They're at least half a dozen kind of larger players that can do that. Yeah, and that's okay. But but these guys you can bid on this. So the name your own price. Everybody comes in with an outrageously low price to test it to go, well, good, you're $150 a night, I'll do 50. Right. And that's what I used to do with name your own price with Priceline was you could game the system and work it up.
They position it as they want to know what people want to pay for their rooms. And I think that's valuable information. It's not always going to be $25 like that. It's going to be, you're going to put something out there and I don't know. I'm not as
careful
you guys.
You should know competitively what
that like I said, good revenue managers know what the market will bear, right? And
look at New York City. They don't know what customers are willing to pay in New York City. They know what Highgate's willing to pay.
No, Highgate sets it there. Highgate isn't setting it at $79 because they could get it at $120. They know, they have figured that out. Let me tell you, those guys who are running revenue management, KJ, who was the main, Kurian Jacob, who's a brilliant guy, who was the main revenue management guy at Highgate, who now is kind of their deal guy, because they are basically running their own, private equity, venture capital group out of that, investing in key technologies like Travel Tripper, and these kind of cool little, groups. But they know they've got the stats and they are making educated just.
And this getting smarter. They are not trashing the market. Predictive analytics. That this is becoming even more of a science. But I think anytime you let your consumer dictate your price and you take control out of you and give it to them, I mean it's like democracy. At the end of the day, the people are going to want to get more and more, and you're going to get less profit, and the product's going to decrease, and then that's why democracy ends up crashing after about 200-300 years.
That's why Stuart hates democracy.
I love democracy. I just think that there's a reason throughout history that at some point when people realize the more socialist we get, the more I get from the government until the government collapses. Every democracy throughout history ends up going through a cycle, and business is the same. When the guests dictate the price, they're going to go as low as they can, and then start complaining when you don't have staff to service them, or you don't have rooms that are with the newest furniture because they've diluted your profitability.
Look at Kmart, JCPenney, all those guys who they killed themselves with constant sales and everything. Kohl's is struggling along because people will not shop at Kohl's, Kohl's is a great little department store. They had a really good strategy of not being in malls and doing all sorts of very, very smart things, but they train the consumer not to ever buy anything at that store unless they've got a fistful of Kohl's cash and big markdowns, and that's they brought it on themselves.
And I will give you this, Holly. I think there's a market for this. I think if you're a very low-end economy property, you don't get a very high ADR anyway. Maybe there's an opportunity to use this kind of approach. But I think if you're a smart hotelier, you have good revenue management, differentiating your brand, you're selling value, not selling on price, don't even get near this thing. It's dangerous. It would be a drug that would kill you.
Hey, Lauren dropped off and we're still here.
And we're still here as far as we know.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, actually one other thing on that, if you are a low-end hotel, I am a big proponent of don't discount. Set your pricing at the right prices where people see value, and don't waste all that time having to negotiate and change things and have people do things that are unknown to them. Just oh, that's the price. Hey, the price is on the sign, and yes, you can make it go up and down. It's the red vacancy light is on, and the numbers there, and they're driving by going, $49. Let's do it. They cut across 3 lanes of traffic. Jeopardize the lives of several other people on the road, but you get the you get the stay.
We just picked up a new client, and we always have a talk with them about that. We don't deal with the revenue side, the rate management side at all, but we try to educate them on best what we see and best practices, and give them resources when they need it. But we had a property recently came to us that is in a very seasonal destination. They set a price and a ADR or a rate per night in January for the entire year, which is not untypical in a small property. It's the same rate every night for the entire year. One rate. So say it's $100 a night. Every single night you stay, peak season, low season, $100. So I'm like, people still operate that way. That's insane to me. So for someone like that, this might work, but don't operate like that.
I did that. I think I've told this story before. I did that with Journey's End. And again, this was a long time ago in late 80s, early 90s. But with this strategy, we became the second fastest growing company in Canada across all industry segments. Okay, we did everyday low pricing, but very, very specifically, we were rapidly growing. So when I joined, we had 36 properties, I think, something like that, and they were basically what you now look at it like a La Quinta style, Holiday Inn Express, that sort of thing. New construction. Very good interior corridors, not exterior corridors. Good quality, great lighting over the desk. Good quality beds. I think we had 2 sinks, one outside the bathroom is one inside. So a little bit upgraded, but we were building these things like crazy, and we were out acquiring pieces of land. And they made the comment in that mid-scale property that, yes, you're looking for 1.5 acres. That's right. You're looking for basically the size of land that you're competing with Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and all these other guys to get a prime spot. But we could acquire, and again, it was a Canadian company. We were acquiring that for $500,000 Canadian for the land at that time. The improvements we had a 60 and 80, 100 and 100. Actually, I don't think we had 100. A 60, 80, and a 120 room kind of prototype. But let's just say an 80 room property would plop down on that. That was about $2.5 million in improvements. So right there, you're in for $3 million to kind of build this place and get it done, which is outrageous.
Set one price and keep it the same for a year.
Well, no, but here's why. So here's why we did it though. No. So here's why we did it. So we're in for $3 million. We would then syndicate these. We would put 6 of them together, right? And we would then syndicate that group to limited partnerships for $30 million or $5 million each. So we have made $2 million right when you transact that. So we've monetized that. And we're pulling down 12 or 13% of revenue, of total hotel revenue, in terms of fees, right? So we're taking, about 12% off the top, right? So that's a very good ongoing revenue stream. We also guaranteed the limited partners 18% return on their investment for 3 years.
He's getting to his point in a minute, I promise.
Right, I will. Okay. So all of this was very, very fixed. We knew the numbers that we knew the numbers that had to happen to make that work, right? Sure. And so what we did was we came out with, right, we know what that number is, and with a little bit, we didn't just set it at that. I mean, in terms of risk, we figured it out and said that's going to be for a room that is an upstairs 2-bedded room or something. I can't remember how we had it set up. I think upstairs were less expensive. We're $7 less expensive downstairs. That was for 2 people. A third person in the room was an additional $7 or whatever. So you kind of had your base rate. But again, across the whole chain, everything was $7 more for this, $7 more per person.
But why would you leave money on the table?
We weren't leaving money on the table because
you're
Sure.
going to be full up in
Absolutely.
peak season at a rate that you could have gotten much higher, and you're going to be empty.
And we would run in the summer before I left that company. We ran 96% occupancy.
Right.
So you were leaving money on the table.
You were leaving money on the table because you could have got a higher ADR.
No. And one third of those properties had not existed 60 days before.
That's great, but you could have been running 96% with $10 extra ADR, and
then that's true. But the question is,
what was your occupancy in the off season? It was a lot lower, right?
We were always leading the market. We were always the occupancy leader, and we were sucking business like crazy.
Which tells me that your specialty rate was too low.
Because
in the old days,
because when we were in there, we were the lowest priced option generally in the market, right? And other guys were yielding up. They'd be $100 sometimes, and then they'd dig down and then get down to $40, but they were old properties.
So you're saying your peak rate was lower than your competitors' off-season lowest rate? That's crazy. That's crazy.
But for this particular group, what we wanted to do was to develop usage. We basically, it was almost an internet strategy where you had awareness and this sort of thing, and we were making tons of money. We were publicly held. We were killing it, right? Sort of thing. Share price going up. Everything worked really well. And yes, we could have optimized revenues to make more short-term profit, but that was not what we were doing. We were expanding across Canada and then down into the US. Now, the company wound up ultimately not being successful, but not because of that. It had nothing to do with the finances. The problem was they structured the company with chairman was a construction guy, president was a real estate guy, and they needed a third person to be the operations guy. And they brought him in. They had looked at Four Seasons going public and said, oh, look at this. When shares leave the Sharp family, they have super majority voting power. Then they go back to just normal. So nobody can take us over. You can't have a hostile takeover. That's great. And they had the Three Musketeers until the guy who had chairman had 40%, president had 40%, EVP of operations had 10%. And 10% was publicly traded, right? 10% was afloat. The guy with 10% wanted out. And that's what killed the company, because they're like, no, all the money's tied up in this and this, and we're paying back the limited partner. And he just wanted out.
Revenue management strategy. That's probably why he left.
But that was the launch revenue management strategy. But for our national sales offices, for ultimately 120 properties, we ran national sales with about 2.5 full-time equivalents, because we didn't discount. We didn't have any negotiated rates.
I'm glad you did well, but you could have done better, no question.
We maybe could, but it was very important to set that initial price, and we had it. And we knew that with these signs, we wanted to then put it to be variable pricing, but to penetrate the market, we would get people used to going, that's the price. And then we were publishing brochures with pre-internet. We printed those twice a year.
Have
not to change pricing.
4 rate structures throughout the year. Just season it or something. Figure out your peak season and raise the ADR $20.
We didn't have computers at the property. All we had was a cash register, right? And our central reservation system was very. No. It was a cash register. Well, one of my great.
You had to know who was in the rooms, right? You had to have a tape or something.
The room rack. Yeah, the room rack.
No, they had no room racks.
How did you know what was occupied?
They had basically the bucket, which is where you keep the guest folios. That was it. You didn't need a room rack.
That was a poorly run operation.
Yeah.
No,
why did this brand not succeed?
That operation is the most.
Because
what we've discovered.
No, the most highly profitable hotel operation I have ever seen.
Until it went under, right? Or until
but the reason it went under was that the partner went. No, and they didn't. You're familiar with who are the guys? Not Westgate. They're huge out of Houston. large hotel management company. They are massive. They took it. They became Choice's. They wound up becoming Choice's master franchisee across Canada, but that wasn't the main option.
Oh,
What they were going to do when this guy wanted to leave, we went to Drexel Burnham Lambert, who was more than willing to float junk bonds, but they didn't want debt. We went to Marriott for an acquisition. Marriott would have bought it in a second, but they didn't want to sell it.
Yeah.
What?
But then they sold the revenue management and the buckets.
No. Marriott wanted all of this. Everybody wanted this thing.
So why didn't they buy it?
What?
Why didn't
because the
Marriott
owners, the two guys with 40% didn't want partners. They didn't want to sell. They just wanted to get enough to get the guy with 10% out, and they couldn't come up with
all the profit you were making. All they needed to do was buy him out over time, right?
But he didn't want to be bought out over time.
That
was the case. They offered to give him Australia. They offered to give him all of Europe. And he went around and looked at it. He didn't want to do that. He just wanted his cash out under these terms, like waiter, check please, I'm done. And it killed the growth of the company. I mean, sort of thing.
So what we've established is that they had a terrible revenue management strategy. They made a lot of money, but probably the revenue strategy wasn't the worst thing that they were doing from a business perspective. It was a lack of understanding of the hospitality industry. Is that?
No. They definitely understood the hotel. They understood the hotel industry. That
was probably the biggest problem.
I am having stress sitting here. I've got to go do my project.
Okay, I've got to run.
I'm starting to panic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, that was not the long-term strategy, but the launch strategy to basically get penetration all the way across Canada, pay off all those limited partners again at 18%. Have a good return to the shareholders. They knew those numbers that would work. No, I would not recommend that strategy for any other organization generally. But all I'm saying is this is similar to
that one scenario.
Yeah, it did, and it was an aberration. It's similar. I took I haven't mentioned Cornell. I took economics at Cornell from a guy. Yeah, your bingo card is not complete, but from a guy, it was supposed to be Alfred Kahn, who wound up deregulating the U.S. airline industry, right? The guy, unbelievable economist, and he left to go deregulate the airline industry, damn it. So I got a graduate student from, he was actually Irish, whose doctoral thesis was upward sloping demand curves during the Irish potato famine, which I still don't really think it was accurate, but he did get a PhD. But it's one of those little aberrations where, I don't know, your guys, I don't think in today's day and age you could do that, but back then there weren't very good revenue management systems. It was complex. The central reservation system was very, very limited, and our biggest problems were answering the phones to get people to book through, right?
Or figuring out which room to put someone in, because you don't know where anyone is.
No, you knew exactly where everybody was. It was very.
I'm kidding. I'm being hid today. I apologize.
I know.
You've taken the role
and again, I can say that based on being a front office manager for a hotel with 600 rooms, with a room rack, with a 1.08 day length of stay, and NCR 4200 posting machines for that. So I know that part of what can be really ugly.
All right, guys.
But these guys were efficient. Oh, and we didn't cover the most of I'm going to, we don't have to talk about it, but I highly recommend anybody who's made it this far, God love you, through the
both of you
through the show. But is the 10 breakthrough technologies for 2018. Not unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff, not necessarily directly related to what hoteliers are going to be doing, but
if you want your life tremendously.
Did you read that article?
Yes, it's phenomenal. That gets me excited.
Oh my gosh.
If you want your mind blown, please read this article from MIT. Really, and these are breakthrough technologies, which is just
Yeah,
you know,
if you want to look at the job you're doing and realize you're not making an impact on the world like some people, I'll go read this article because
maybe I should just list them through here just for the record. So when Lauren looks through the tape, you can put them in the minutes. Yeah, because Lauren won't read. The guy's he's been hit by lightning so many times. I don't know if his eyes can focus on stuff. But the 10 breakthrough technology 3D metal printing, and they got a picture of a printer, but it's printing metal. And all of this stuff is like, how do they even do that? Artificial embryos.
That's scary.
No egg, no sperm. What could go wrong?
No need for men.
Yeah.
That's what
or women either, unfortunately.
Well, right. Yeah. Nah.
I'm just going to incubate the egg, right?
Exactly.
No,
all right.
Okay. So
Sensor
then
city.
sensing cities. So really, really smart, intelligent cities. AI for everybody, which is just the democratization of AI. Dueling neural networks was very, very interesting. Very interesting stuff of how these things get trained on these data sets and wind up working things out where they can determine things.
Go read about AlphaGo and how good it is at chess after a couple.
Oh yeah,
that'll freak you out just on its
yeah.
own.
So they now have these things competing. Babelfish earbuds, which is kind of what it started off with, the Google Pixel Buds, which I do have a Pixel, but did not get the Buds. But instantaneous translation.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's great.
Yep, that's right. Zero carbon natural gas, which that's an interesting one.
Uh-huh.
Perfect online privacy, which that's some of this is
that
zero knowledge.
I don't know if that one was as impactful as the other,
The ZK Snark stuff though is pretty interesting stuff. So then that may again tie into blockchain type things, but we won't go there.
I figured.
Genetic fortune telling. So yeah, you can
Your scorecard at birth.
Yeah.
Which you can, really, you can do this now, right? You can go and get the 23andMe done, and it gives you pretty detailed medical probabilities of if you're susceptible to certain types of cancer or mental disorders in future. So I would encourage people to go do that. The more
Can
you know.
One done on Robert?
And I think on Lauren, I think we should have had the before and after lightning strike thing with Lauren.
All right, so this is another story I learned at HSMAI. Ed, who's usually on the show, had it done, right? He did the ancestry one, and then they hit him up for the 23andMe for the genetic medical one. But when did they find alien plant so even
or
better.
mineral life DNA in there?
Close. So when he did the ancestry one, he found out that he was related to this old Irish king, and what did they call him? It had this crazy nickname where he would go and kidnap. It was like Ivan the Kidnapper or something like that. But he would go into all the surrounding kingdoms and basically kidnap and torture the leaders and then keep them in prison for years on end. Like he was like this brutal dictator guy. And
so Ed's continuing that tradition.
You know what? Back in that day, I probably would have been that guy.
I can see the bloodline clearly.
Yeah, so he's got it genetically. Yeah.
It comes
Get the actual name
naturally.
of the guy. Next time he's on the show, we should ask him. But it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was Ivan the Kidnapper.
My dad always.
I don't remember.
My dad used to always say that we were related to Old King Cole, who apparently, though, was not a merry old soul and sounds a lot more like the kind of guy you were describing. Not a good guy.
Yeah, I need to find out what it was. I made up Ivan the Kidnapper. That is not a real name.
I sort of like that, though.
Yeah.
But the last one.
My new Twitter handle.
Ivan the Kidnapper. That's right. That's going to be her coding hacking name.
That's
Ivan the Kidnapper. Her 4chan name. Yeah, her 4chan handle. And the last one was Materials Quantum Leap. So just all the stuff they've got to do to make quantum computing.
Quantum computing is. We're talking about AI right now, but when quantum computing is a real viable thing, it's a complete fundamental game changer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I'm sharing that on every network. That was a great article.
Really interesting.
Thank you, Robert, for
anyway.
coming
glad
up.
we squeezed that in there.
That was not from the hotel, and I don't know where I got. I subscribed.
All
to
of
all
that
sorts.
is going to impact us in some way as consumers and business operators. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I highly
That
recommend
article.
you can subscribe to things like Wharton and MIT and Stanford and these guys. They have little newsletters, and McKinsey and these guys, they come up with really good stuff every once in
I
a
would
while.
just
That's about
rather
what's going on with
You
business
curate them and
and
send them out.
oh, I see. So
Thank you. Thank you for that.
anyway,
All right. Goodbye. I'm
well,
off.
where can they find you, Holly, before you leave, other than slaving over your computer for the
I
next 24 hours?
I don't really want to be found. Like, I want people
Okay.
to leave me alone for a little while because I got to get through this. No.
oh my God. She's
Holly.
turning into a real coder. It's like she's
Right.
losing all the social.
That's right.
She's the next thing in a year from now. She's gonna be like really socially awkward.
Right.
And,
Leave me alone.
She's going to have, if you turn the camera slightly, there's a pile of Doritos and Mountain Dew right there.
exactly.
I haven't gotten there. Although somebody gave me Soylent last week.
Mm-hmm. Is it as gross as it sounds?
Yes.
I listened to
Yeah,
a podcast, Stuff You Should Know did an episode on Soylent, and it sounds disgusting.
It was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
No, it actually wasn't disgusting, but I was so afraid I was drinking people that I couldn't.
Yeah. Well,
All right, I'm going.
That's the
Goodbye.
secret ingredient.
Holly at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com is where you can find me.
Good deal.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Bye.
and thank God,
See ya.
it's digital now, so you don't have to actually write that out in your pen running out of ink on the
Yeah.
on the URL.
And Robert, where can they find you, sir?
Robert K. Cole on social media or rockcheetah.com.
And you can get me at Stuart Butler on Twitter. You can get us, a company at Fuel Travel, and then go and subscribe to the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast because it's great.
And it's starting in just a little while. So
It is. I've got about 2 hours. We're going to go have a cookie party with the employees for Appreciation Day. We bought Bojangles biscuits in this morning. And then we're going to do cookies.
Lauren
And
did
then-
nothing, by the way.
And then we're going to drink a beer and record a podcast episode. So, yeah,
there.
it's a productive
There you
day
go.
for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
A typical day, if people want to know, you can just record that, put it on your website. What's a typical day like at Fuel Travel? If I'm
I
thinking
just talk nonsense and pretend to be
This
Ed
is-
for a couple of hours.
Pretend to be Ed. And make
Oh,
us
sorry,
great
Ivan the
monikers.
Kidnapper.
Ivan the Kidnapper.
Ivan the Kidnapper. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we need to that's what we need to call Ed now. So
Yeah.
very good.
All right, guys.
Goodbye.
Great show.
Bye
Thanks.
bye. And I'm going to end the event.